And just
Okay.
a mil, just imagine that a million people are watching you, and
Yeah.
they are judging you really hard. No, I'm
Yes,
just
I feel
kidding.
great about it. I feel really awesome.
Your reputation is on the line.
Is on the line here. Well, I don't think I have much of one, so there's nothing much to do with it.
I'm
Unless I
only
have some
kidding.
secret reputation I don't know about.
At least like when you're sort of introverted, the one thing that I could tell you that's like the best thing for you is everybody who's in the comments on these lives are always the kind people. And the dicks
Well,
we get rid of real quick.
That's good. I do want people to question the method, but I want them to be nice to me.
Also, you can make fun of me because I got new glasses. So there you
Oh, well,
go.
I think they look fine. I think they look good, so.
They're playing music. They're like Meta smart glasses. They just started
Oh, I don't
playing
know how
music.
those work at all, but
You know, they can be annoying. But
I
anyway,
would it, I'm I would not even know how to turn them off if I had them, so it's probably
it's real
best I
easy to
don't
turn them
have
off. You just
anything.
do that.
Oh, they don't actually look that bad for just being like smart glasses. Do they only come like with that look or
Kinda. They're a little
yeah.
like they're a little. There's some that are a little different. Every time you touch them, they start playing music. Like it's just started playing Lizzo, and I had to turn it off. It was weird
They
for me
don't,
to
I
be
mean, I
listening
can't
to
really
Lizzo.
tell that they're not just regular glasses, so.
Oh, you can when you look at them really close because they got like cameras
Oh,
in
okay.
the
Yeah,
yeah.
from here I can't really see it, so.
You can see it when you do this.
Oh yeah. Yeah, most glasses don't have little lights on them.
Yeah. But you can like I thought it was cool because we're going to New Orleans soon. Me and Rachel. Rachel was invited. Rachel is my fiance, if you don't know, or my
Right,
she's
yes.
my wife now.
Wife
Holy
now.
shit, she's my wife. She got invited by one of her coworkers. One of her coworkers runs a crew in New Orleans, so she got
hmm
invited to this parade. So we're going to New Orleans to be in this parade, and I was like, I'll get these live stream glasses, and I can live stream the parade.
Oh, nice. I've
Yeah.
always wanted to go there. I don't get out much, so.
Now, where are you from?
I live in Connecticut.
Oh,
I'm originally
Connecticut's
from
gorgeous
Illinois,
though.
but I've lived here almost 20 years.
Connecticut's gorgeous. I went with
It
John.
is
He had that.
snowing now, though.
Yeah. He had that exhibit at some college. Was it Hartford? I think. I don't remember. Anyway, but I found like the best breakfast place I've ever eaten in my entire life. It's called the Place to Be. So
Never heard of it.
if you're ever in like Hartford, I think it's in Hartford.
It could be. I don't know. I know we have Yale, I know we have UConn. I don't even know how to get to either of them. Like I said, I don't get out much.
Well,
Usually
the
when I
Place
go,
to Be
somebody
was
else
awesome.
drives.
All right. Let's see. People are watching. Not many people though. So you're good on that. Ooh, we got a phone
Turn off
call.
my It's my alarm. Usually I am getting ready for work at this time because I work third shift, so let me turn those off.
Oh, did you take off of work to do this?
Oh no, I just called
Okay.
in late. I don't have a good job, so they don't care. Well, they
Oh,
might care, but I don't care.
yeah, yeah. Like they don't pay you enough to give a shit, that kind of thing.
Right, exactly.
Nice. Yeah.
It's like a
That's
crappy job, so
yeah. That's what I
I'm
try
sure
to tell
they
like
won't be
everybody.
happy, but
Yeah. Oh, you know, who cares? What do they do for you?
yet nothing.
That's what I tell people, man. You should only care about your job as much as they pay you to care. You know?
Yeah,
Whatever.
that's true. That's true.
Anyway, so do you have to go at a certain time? Do we need to like be quick or
No,
okay, good.
no.
All right.
I'll just show up when I show up. It's bad weather, so I probably won't be among the only people are probably not showing up tonight
Just be
besides
like,
me, but I'll
I
I'll
snowed
be
in.
there just late, so
Nice. Okay. All right. So we're matching things today. We're matching paintings with verses,
yes,
which
as
is
everyone does.
yeah, something
So
no one has been able to do. So
we'll
we're
we'll
gonna
see
crack
how
the
it
code.
goes. I also tried everything. I thought it was funny because I was listening to one of the older podcasts, and I think it was the columns one.
No.
And Sunday came on and she was talking about numerology for matching them. And everyone was laughing, saying, "Oh, that you just made that up in your head," and stuff like that. No one would ever come to that conclusion. And I had also tried that at one point. And I was like, well, at least one other person came to that conclusion. But
Were
it's
you?
like her, it didn't work.
Can I ask you like it's a question you should not ever ask a woman.
Okay.
How old are you?
I'm 44,
Okay, so
and I'm
you're
not
basically my
sensitive
age.
about being old, so
Okay, but you
that's
remember
why my
that
notes are on paper instead of on a
you
computer.
but you remember the 80s. Like I was
Yes,
super young, but I still remember it.
yes, I was
The-
born in '80, so I was
well,
very young when this came out. But
so the thing that got me about Sunday with the
mhm.
numerology stuff was I remember in the 80s that was so taboo. Like it's not anymore. Like new agey sort of
Right
religion
now,
stuff.
it's coming
Now it's
back.
fine. Yeah. But
Yeah,
back then with the moral majority and the Christian coalition and like D&D
yes,
is of
I
the
was raised
devil.
very religious too, so
Me too.
we were you couldn't talk about things like that and tarot and other stuff relating to that really, or
Yeah.
you were the devil.
But like but just getting into D&D was considered like satanic and stuff and
Oh
parents would
yes, my brother got into D&D and everyone thought he was going down a bad path.
so that made me wonder like how much would a Jewish publisher use mysticism, you know?
Probably not. I wasn't thinking that at the time. I was just like, figure out how to solve these in any way possible, but it didn't work. So, but
Yeah.
I tried. You had the gentleman on too that was like looking at the hands, and I had also tried that, but I couldn't make that work either. I tried even just the left hand because of the word wed in those two poems and stuff, and that didn't work for me. It works for a couple. Every
Yeah.
method works for a few, but not all.
And then it
And if you
just
can't
doesn't
make it
work.
work for the solved ones, then it doesn't work.
Yeah, that hand
So,
stuff was really really good until it just I mean it was great and then it just went right off the
oh
rails.
yeah, at one point I thought I had figured something out, and then it didn't work either. So,
Yeah.
but we'll see. I think I figured something out now too, but I've thought that several times. So that might not mean a damn thing.
All right. Well, let's get it. Like, let's. So you, how did you start? Like, what made you want to figure out how to pair the verses and the
Well, I do still believe that they're already paired correctly.
paintings?
Um, and I don't know, it just bothered me that there was no actual confirmation that it was right. I thought it was right, but the fact that I don't know, I just wanted there to be some kind of proof that it was right.
Yeah.
Like to me, the latitude and longitude is not something you can argue. I know people still do,
Yeah.
but to me, it's not an arguable thing. So I didn't really think this was arguable either, because, like you've said before, if you take one verse, then it messes up another verse. So you have to be able to flip flop them in some way.
Yeah. But
So,
it doesn't just mess up it doesn't just mess up like what it's paired to. It also messes up methodology. Like
right, right,
if you take any of the verses and screw with them, then the methodology for the other ones don't work anymore. It doesn't. It's like
right. But
I've always explained it to people. It's like a spider web. Like there's no one
yes,
thing that pairs them all together. It's a spider web of a whole different bunch of stuff.
yeah. I think I just wanted confirmation, even though I already believed it was correct. I don't know. It was a
Yeah.
puzzle, so I wanted it to be figured out, kind of like the two poems that you can mesh together.
Mhm.
And I feel like you should take two lines from one, then two lines from the other,
Were you
because
the
it
one that
flows.
posted that on Reddit?
Yes,
That was
yes,
good.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so to me, that's also a puzzle. So whether it's needed or not, I just have this. I just want to figure them out, I
It's
guess.
that poem is way too mysterious. Like even if it doesn't mean anything, like
Yeah,
it's done
I
that
feel
way
like it
for a
has to mean
reason.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like to work on that too, but I haven't come up with anything for that really.
Good luck with that one.
I know
I
I don't
lost a
know
lot
where
of
that's
sleepless
going.
nights over that. Yeah. All right. So we want to pair the verses with the paintings just for solid proof. So
Right.
how'd you sort of go about it?
Well, I first started out because of the Japanese hint, to use numbers. Everyone tries that. I tried the numerology thing, and I was trying using like just the numbers that were written out, or just the numbers that were in numerals, or both of them, or different methods of taking numbers in or out that would work in all of them. But nothing really works. Like she said, like Sunday said in the columns one, some would work for the painting, the verse number, and some would work for the birth month number, but it wouldn't work across the board. And you end up getting the same number for some of them. And then I started thinking like, he has certain numbers that he has to use to make the puzzle work, like 1913 and 982. And how could he make sure he was using all the numbers he had to use in the verses and also still make all these numbers work to figure out the verses? And I thought, I don't know, I'm not a puzzle maker in any way. I could never do it. So to me, that seemed really hard to be able to use all those numbers and also use them in another way. So I went about it. I know everyone said to our detriment, we have numbered the verses
Uh-huh.
1 through 12, but that's exactly what I did, was use that number rather than the numbers in the verses. I used those in combination with things from the litany. So it's just the verse number rather than the numbers in the verses is what I ended up using.
Gotcha. I understand. Okay.
So I just went with, we all know that there's that little piece of artwork on it, on the litany, and the artwork on the verses. So I went with that. And I thought, there's all those extra things in the litany that aren't needed. Besides like the immigration thing, there's also a few extra things for each group that seems like, why is it there? Like
Yeah.
desert sky at dawn, things like that. You don't need that to tell you the immigration group. So I was going to look in the rest of the book to try to pair them, just like, everyone has tried. But I ended up just looking at the first page of the litany. It also has the symbol on it. It doesn't have the poem though, so it's a bit ignored. And I ended up making a list of the things that it says. It says like fairies love or fairies treasure, things like that. So I made a list of those things, and I can read them out. I mean, unless you have paper and pen or something, this might get a little confusing. Um, and the first part of the list was starshine, flowers, trees, running streams, dew bright morning spiderwebs, and music. And then it lists jewels. I didn't include jewels because it goes off from being about fairies to being about man when it lists jewels. And it also lists jewels further down the list, but just about the fairies liking them. So I skipped jewels in that spot. Then I put under the heading of gold, sunlight dancing on water, turning leaves in autumn. Then under the heading of silver, moonlight and icicles. Then it says precious stones and gems, which is the second occurrence of jewels, and jewelry. So that was the list. There were 12 items. So I just took the verses in order. So starshine is 1, flowers is verse 2, trees is verse 3, and on down till 12. So I started with the first one. I skipped the second one because flowers, that was everything. So for the first one, verse 1 is Houston. And so I was like, now I have a word, starshine, and I have verse 1, Houston. So now I need to find something from the litany to help me pair it to a painting. I started off looking at the paintings. I think 4 of them had stars. New Orleans has it on the clock. Charleston has a star on its clock. And then there's Boston and Houston. But this word was starshine, and only Boston and Houston had a shining star. So I looked to the litany. Boston's litany said antique, olivine, and rich, which didn't really make sense. But Houston says desert sky at dawn. And if you look at the painting, that's where the starshine is, in the sky at dawn. I'm guessing dawn. I'm not an artist. There's a little light coming over the horizon, sunset, sunrise. I don't know. So since the starshine appeared where the litany led me to in the painting, I matched the Houston painting to verse 1 through the word starshine. I kind of skipped 2 because flowers was a bit daunting to me at first, because every painting has flowers. And I ended up having to solve that one with another one. So when I get to the other one, just because that one can be flip-flopped easily with another. So I needed to figure out which one belonged to which. Even though I'm going in order and it should be 2, I didn't want to just put 2 there just in case. So I'm going to go on to trees, which is verse 3. A lot of the paintings had trees, but the thing I noticed was a lot of the things on the list, if they are directly in the painting, are not the answer, unless something points you directly to that part of the painting, like the desert sky at dawn does. Also, I couldn't find things in the litany for the paintings that had trees in them that went with the theme of trees. So I knew I needed to use the litany and this list. That was part of it. You know how Chris always talks about the call and response. So to me, this is the litany is the call, this is the response, or vice versa. I don't know. And there was only one thing in the litany to me that matched trees, and that was the description of antique, old, olivine meaning green, and rich, rich can mean plentiful, like the forest is rich with trees. And so that is the way that I matched Boston to verse 3 through its description of trees in the litany. The next one was running streams. This one was a little bit difficult, even though it's actually one of the easiest ones, because when I first started, there were words here, besides just the list, that matched words in the litany, like rare, earthborn, moon, star, sun. They're all on this page and in the litany. And I originally tried to match it that way, and that didn't work. And it seems anything that's a direct match for a word, that's not the answer. Same with the painting being kind of a direct match, that's not the answer. So for rushing streams, I thought maybe I shouldn't go with Cleveland because it's the only one really that speaks of water in the litany. And I think it speaks of, let me see on my notes. I have what it has on the litany written down somewhere. Spring water clear. But then I figured out through another one that they can match in what they are, as long as the words used are not the same. Like you can't match moon and moon, but you can match gems and jewels. You can't match silver and silver, but you can match spring water clear and rushing streams. So that's how I matched Cleveland to verse 4 through the description of the spring water clear and the rushing streams together. Then I went on to verse 5. This one, I think you have to think kind of poetically, this one, but nothing else in the litany works for this either. So I know this, I'll get some definite pushback here because this one, we all know verse 5 is considered Montreal. And that's what I matched it to. This one on the list is Dew Bright Morning Spiderwebs. And there's no spiderwebs in the paintings or anything like that. And there's nothing really mentioning spiders or webs in the verses. The only thing I could come up with in the litany was the one for Montreal. That's why I said it's kind of poetic. Its description was a cloud of shining, shifting smoke. And I feel like shining isn't usually used to describe spider or smoke. Yeah. But since he said dew bright morning spider webs, I feel like he put shining to match the shining dew. I guess if you think of a spider web between two trees or something, it could look like a cloud of shining, shifting smoke in the morning. I don't know. That one's a little.
It kind of makes sense.
But that's the one I went with. I also thought, and this could mean nothing, but I also think that his fingers look kind of spidery, like they're positioned in a weird, like kind of like spider legs. I think that they do mean something else. I think that some of the things in the verses that are in here can confirm this, and they can also mean something in the verse. Like this one says white stone. Everyone says maybe it could be the opal, maybe there's an actual white stone, something like that. But that's how I paired that one. I know that one's poetically, I know that one's gonna get pushed back, but to me, the description in the litany matched the thing it was supposed to be in the list. The next one was music, which we all are gonna link to Charleston, and it does link to Charleston. That's the order of the verse. It's on verse 6. It's the 6th thing on the list. We know Charleston has music, tunes, listen, ape, hear, hearken, bar, song, things like that. But since this is a call and response, it has to use the litany. And the litany here is Bright Harvest of the Midnight Rock, which doesn't really have anything to do with music. But I looked at, to me, the Midnight Rock is the moon. I'm guessing most people think that. And Bright Harvest, so I thought Harvest Moon, which if you look that up, if you don't already know, a harvest moon is usually a yellow, gold, orangey type colored moon. So to here, I went to the verse because it wasn't really answering to music. And there's a line in the verse that says, seen here by eyes of old. So I looked at the lion's eyes, and the eyes look like two golden colored crescent moons. I know a harvest moon is generally a full moon. But just like, I think it was the gift giver said, is the spoon important, or is the spoon there to show that the pea is not just a circle or a ball? So I thought, are they shaped like crescents to show they're a moon and not to show that they're just eyes or a circle? So that is how I matched it through that line in the verse. Now, I don't know if that line is just for that or if it means something otherwise. I really don't know, but that's how I match Charleston. To me, the music already matches, but I felt like the litany has to also have a meaning, or there's no call and response aspect of it. Verse 7. This one was solved way differently than all the rest. It kind of follows the whole there's a framework thing, but different ways to solve them. This one was, it has first the word gold and then sunlight dancing on water. This one is when I did a Chris Woodford and went with the story for the Chinese immigration. It's directly, the end of it is directly on the page next to this page of the list. The words in the story, they're shining, and to me that's for the sunlight on water. But there's also sun and golden and silver and moon, and then there's a story about the wander of the sun and his mother, beautiful as the moon. And this one is sunlight dancing on water, and its counterpart is chaste, perfect as the silver moon. So together, they're shining sunlight, silver moon, and that's what the story is about. And then it has the word chaste, which to me, I think of like a young, pure girl or something like that. And when you look at the story and it says that the multitude of, I can't remember what the name was, comes, the first thing on the list is like delicate maidens or something like that. So to me, that is what I think of when I think of the word chaste. So I took the delicate maidens in the story is what he used for the word chaste in this part. Whether this is a stretch or not, I don't know. But I just matched it based on that. And the confirming or helpful line I used from the verse, which obviously probably has another meaning, was the near ace is high, because we know in when you play cards, blackjack, whatever, when ace is low, it's 1, and when ace is high, it's 11. And we know there are 11 moons in the sky of this painting. So near that would be the sun. So I think both things are pointing to sunlight and moonlight. And this one in the list is sunlight, and its litany counterpart is moonlight. I think then, let's see, the next one was turning leaves in autumn. And this one was on the list number 8, so I'm trying to match it with Milwaukee. We all know it has the step on nature cast in copper, however that goes, which again, poetically, I think could be used to just describe changing leaves in autumn, copper-colored leaves. But it was hard for me really to match Imperial Star of Germany to anything. But this is the only one I really did any research for. And when I looked it up, I obviously before, if you're thinking Imperial, thinking Empire. If you didn't learn that in school, you learned it in Star Wars. At least I did. So when you think of if you think of something that symbolizes the German Empire, most people unfortunately think of a swastika in wartime or something like that, because most people, that's the history they know of Germany. I'm German, so, but, so Imperial Star of Germany during wartime was a swastika. But if you look up anything about it, they changed the star, I won't say star, but they changed the symbol from a swastika to a cluster of oak leaves. So after World War II on, let's see, the Iron Cross, the Knight's Cross, and it just says other medals, were switched from a swastika to an oak leaf to be a sign of the German Empire, German military, things like that. So that is how I connected Imperial Star of Germany to turning leaves in autumn. Again, that's the only one I did any real research for, really had to look anything up for. But that's how I connected that one to Milwaukee. Here is where I'm going to go back to verse 2, because the word for verse 2 is flowers, which we know St. Augustine's litany is flowers. Like I said, when it's something that's exact, like flowers in the list and flowers in the litany, they were never a match. But then St. Augustine's word is moonlight, and that could be used for New Orleans, which is where verse 2 fell on here, was with flowers. So New Orleans has moonlight in its painting, so I just wanted to make sure that these actually went with what they were. Let me see here. So if you look at from the list, flowers for verse 2, you look at the flowers for New Orleans. And one thing from his litany, which is stone, and between the two flowers is the stone on the clock. I don't know if the line from end to end is helping tell you that, or that's just in my mind. But between them is the stone. It calls out the stone on its own line after a colon, so I felt like you were supposed to notice the stone in the picture. Also, there are two flowers, and it's verse 2. Then you look at flowers for the litany for St. Augustine. There are 9 flowers. It's verse 9. And then you have to account for the litany part of, or the list part of St. Augustine, which is moonlight. So I went to the verse for that. The line, like moonlight and teardrops, points out a thing in the painting, which is the star sapphire. He could have used a regular sapphire. He chose a star sapphire, which, if you look at it, it's a little round blue drop with a little white part in the center, which to me fits well with moonlight and teardrops. So I thought that the list was pointing to that line, which directly points you to a painting. And so then the litany for New Orleans was rare as a blue midsummer's day, which the painting depicts nighttime, like a moon and stars on the clock. But so I thought maybe this isn't pointing you towards the painting. I think he thought these two could be interchangeable. I think that's why he gave you Saloy. I think that's why he made 2 flowers for this one and 9 for the other, and they match their verse and they both use flowers. So I think Blue Midsummer's Day is not to point you towards something, but to point you away from moonlight. It's saying this one is the day, this one is the moonlight one. So I think that verse 2 fits for flowers in that way, and verse 9 fits for moonlight in that way. Then let's see, what do I have next? I already did that one. Let me get out my old lady lists here. What do I have? 10. I don't know where I put the paper for that, but it's icicles, I think. Pretty sure. Which is you're matching to, I think, New York, which I think that one's pretty simple. It says frozen. It's the only one that really alludes to ice in its litany. Royal Sunstone, Frozen Fire. And I also think that in the painting, this one killed me a little bit. So I like to kind of not believe it, but also believe it, because I used this church in some of my theories. But I thought, yeah, the churches have onion domes. So do some of their castles. Not all of them. Much more churches have onion domes than castles. But what if this is a castle to symbolize royal? And what if they use this special color blue to symbolize frozen, because there's water all over the rest of the painting? To me, it's kind of a fail, because the blue is not different enough to look frozen to me as compared to the water. Maybe he thought that it would. So to me, I kind of think this might be supposed to symbolize a frozen castle for Royal Sunstone. And also the stone is blue, when the stone for November is usually yellow or orange, which to me, I guess, symbolizes the frozen sunstone. So that is how I matched that one. Let's see, I still never found where I put that paper, but the next one on the list lists precious stones and gems. This one, I did not really have a verse match, but I mean, it still fits, but nothing in the verse really fit. That's why I was hoping that maybe somebody would find some other markers besides the ones I found. Precious stones and gems, like I said, I didn't use jewels before because it directly matched jewels in the painting. So this one I'm matching to the one that says jewels, which is Roanoke, for crown jewel of our queen. I can't remember the total rest of the line, but that's what it says. But really, just because I'm getting to the end and I have Chicago and Roanoke left, and that one matches with jewels, there's gems in every part of the litany. But I think, I'm not positive, I think this is the only one that specifically calls out the jewels as its only thing. It doesn't really say much else beyond that. The rest of them all have another little line or something, but this one's extra line is just about the crown jewels. So that's how I matched Roanoke. I'm hoping there's like something else to match it, because that's very little, but maybe he was just getting tired of it at the end, because the last one's kind of simple too. I do also think the belt part where the jewel is on the knight could resemble a crown or circlet or something like that. But that's how I matched Roanoke to verse 11. And then the last one is jewelry. That's a simple one for Chicago. It's one of the only paintings that has jewelry in it, the large earring, and its litany only calls out really the color. It calls out the eyes, which I think is, we've all thought is for those spots on his eyes to represent five because it doesn't have a clock in that painting. Um, but I think it really just calls out the color of the emerald. Um, I think that's just because the jewelry is the emerald. It's an emerald earring. And it lists a large bunch of jewelry for this. Uh, it says rings, pendants, bracelets, necklace, brooches, coronets, combs, inlaid dagger hilts. The only main jewelry that it doesn't list are earrings. So that makes me believe that's the one it is. He does a lot of by omission things, or if it's jewels, it can't be jewels. But so I feel like because he omitted that, that's why it's the one you're looking for. And also, it's really the only one with jewelry. But that's how I matched verse 12 to Chicago. And my main thing was I was just wondering because they can all fit, but I need to make sure that you can't just swap them around and fit them with anything. I mean, that's the order. I just put them in the order they appear in the book with the list and made them fit. I did try to make sure other ones didn't fit because I made sure they had to fit this list. Their litany also has to make sense with this list, and it has to work for the ones that are solved and the ones we're sure of, like Saloy and 982 and things like that. And I was able to make it work for all of them. So I don't know. Now I wanted to come on here so I could, figure out if there's ways around it, that like I'm biased towards these ones, but I really just went in order.
Yeah.
That the book gives. So
I mean, some of these are really good.
yeah.
Some of them not so much.
Yeah, some are iffy.
um, but they're all subjective.
Yes, all of them.
And the hard you're dealing the hard thing about this is you're dealing with the basics of the puzzle, right? Like
yes.
People often use the excuse like when they go down rabbit holes, well, I'm just trying to figure out the last part of this puzzle. The early parts were easy
right.
and this part's hard. But you're dealing with the very basics. And if you think
because I thought that's the first thing he wanted to do, so I thought it would probably be kind of simple.
Yeah. But think about the other basics of the puzzle and how they're presented to you, right? The facts that you need to know. Like how do you know what month is associated with each painting? Well, you just count some shit.
It's just right
or
there,
it just tells you. Yeah.
Right.
And because like this is a contentious thought that I have that because those are so simple and matching the paintings with the verses is so complicated, most of the time I just assume there's not really a way to.
Right.
Because nobody has come up with any kind of even like simple ideas that even just work with a couple of them.
Right.
Of course, we don't know how you're throwing the paintings in the mix, so maybe you have.
Well, anyway. A lot of them can't. The painting can't just match the litany because otherwise you wouldn't need the list.
Yeah.
Like I was trying to make it work with the list with the litany, because otherwise, what's the point of it? If it's all just right there in the litany or in the verse.
Let's keep going.
Well, I mean, that's how I matched it. I don't really know. Like there were other ones, like some paintings had stars, some paintings had trees and things like that. But it seemed like the ones that were obvious were never the correct ones.
Yeah.
And there were some that, like the jewelry for Chicago, and it is in the spot for Chicago. Like to me, that one's right there in the painting. But maybe that's just because I want it to be there. And like the story for San Francisco, that's completely different than all the other ones. And I kind of thought, like, why would he use that for that one? And then there's nothing, you don't use the front of the book besides the litany for any of the other ones, really, unless, I mean, there could be matches. I didn't go there. I thought maybe other people could make these like deeper or tell me something that they had.
Yeah.
But they do match. It's just in slightly different ways.
Yeah. but I keep going back to they're all just kind of subjective. And then, like you said, some of them,
Hmm.
some matches are like some lines would match much better with others. You know, using your
Yes,
same sort of rules.
yes. The only reason I couldn't make a lot of them match is because their litany didn't match also.
Yeah.
So the litany for the verse has to match and the list, and a lot of them where other ones could be swapped, either the list or the litany no longer made sense
Okay.
anymore.
All right. Can you like because this is a lot of information, but
Yes.
can you publish this? Can you like put it out so that people can read it and can look at
Yeah, it
sort of
might
the?
take me a while
That's
since I
fine.
have a lot here, but yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Um, I know it's a lot.
You know, a lot of this stuff is and it's easier, especially when you're dealing with 12 things at once. It's easier when you can see it in like a table, you
Right,
know,
yes. Yeah.
like columns, like someone famously mentioned
Yeah.
columns,
Right.
which like
But yeah,
I don't know, that was the way I always used columns to match these. It seemed really basic to me.
yeah, I
I
just wrote these on. I had only columns for the I suppose I could have put the column with its litany line, the list line, the verse number line.
well no
Um,
I mean like matching the paintings with the verses always seemed very basic to me. I never understood
yeah.
why it was like a contentious thing. Why there was so much controversy over it. It seemed
I guess I was trying to make
basic.
them match without any other information because he said that you needed to start with the pairing first.
Mhm.
So I thought he probably thinks you don't have any of this info when you're doing the pairing. So I tried to not use 982 and not use what city they were
I mean, you don't have
to
to do it.
pair it.
You don't have to really. I mean, you do have to use the city, but you like with
I didn't
me.
use the city, I just went by the city names as we know them, but just
Yeah.
that verse number.
So with me, I always imagined three columns, right? Like I
Mm-hmm.
to match the verses with the verse, painting, and city. Three columns.
Yes.
You have
Mm-hmm.
verse on one column, city on the second column, painting on the third column. And
Right.
if you start filling out information in each of those, it, something gives you a direct clue to the state and something gives you a direct clue to the city in both the painting or the verse. Does that make sense? Like, and you
Yes.
start filling out these columns, you start narrowing everything down and matching everything together. Like
Right.
the quote in the Charleston verse about Charleston and the map of Charleston in the Charleston painting, or the outline of Louisiana in the
Right.
New Orleans painting, and the quote about New Orleans in the New Orleans verse. Like it, you can do that with
Yes.
all of them, and through the process of elimination, match everything together
I agree.
really,
Because these
really
are the same
easily.
pairing. My whole thing was, and I'm sure there's, I mean, I just thought I would never have come up with these quotes. I wouldn't have found them. I wouldn't have found them now, probably. Um, of course, other people did. I know you're using like the quotes and stuff to match them, but I just tried to do something that was in the book just
Oh
because
yeah, and
I
I
feel
commend
like
that.
the quotes are really obscure. So I don't know how people would have found them then.
Yeah, well, some of them
I
are
know I
obscure and some.
wouldn't, but I'm not good at that kind of thing.
Well,
I
so
think a lot of my information is just known information.
some
So
of them aren't that obscure. Like the Walpole quote for Boston, that's not that obscure. That's in Bartlett's. The quote
oh,
about
I had never heard of it before.
New Orleans, I think also in Bartlett's. I'm not 100% sure on that. It's not as obscure.
Right.
The Charleston quotes very obscure. But if you think about like the Walpole quote being very common doesn't really give you a whole lot of information right off the bat, right? You still have to sort of
Right,
work
yeah.
out what it's telling you. But the Charleston one, if you were to find that quote, you all of a sudden know exactly where you need to dig. You know, it
Right.
skips you ahead several
Yeah, I
steps on the
definitely
puzzle.
agree. The quotes really point to the cities and help with the paintings and things like that. I was just trying to figure out a way without any information because to me I thought he wanted you to do it first, so I tried to not use the information we had learned
Mhm.
to figure them out and just use information that was given to me in the book.
I mean, it makes sense that he would want you to do it first. And like I said, some of these are really, really good. I would recommend keep kind of going down, keep thinking about the ones that don't
Hmm.
make as much sense because like maybe just over time, I know like take a nap and then something will pop in my head. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
it's like, oh my God, why didn't I think about that? So I would encourage you, keep thinking about them. Um,
right.
and then I forgot where I was going. I'm sorry. um,
No, I've come up with new stuff from when I first wrote it down in the first place. It was very, very basic when I first did it.
yeah,
And just over the last month, other things have come to me. Like I didn't immediately know how to match the litany for Charleston, but that one also, the moon in the lion's eyes, I don't know, maybe I'm the only one that would think that because that's the order it went in my thing. So I'm trying to match that one to that because that's just the order of the verses in the book.
yeah.
So I don't know. I never could figure out anything using the numbers in combination with each other. I could only ever figure out the numbers in combination with this list. So I didn't know if maybe he meant combination of numbers and something else, or he did mean you to figure out numbers in the verses, but I could never do anything with that.
Yeah. I like I always hesitate to say this because then people will start saying it for everything. But I always
Mm-hmm.
imagine if when Byron and the translator were sitting around and Byron was like, well, to start, just, figure out to match everything together, just figure out the numbers. And then the translator was like, well, where would the numbers be? Oh, the numbers in the verse. You know what I'm saying? Or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
absolutely do have numbers that you
Oh,
can
yeah.
use to match everything up, but they're just not in
Right.
the verse. They're in the paintings.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. It's one of those mysteries. Like, I keep going back to this was just badly put together.
Well, I mean, there are signs of that. Yes. A
but
little bit.
but like I commend the going back to the book, just using what's in the book, just using what's like right in front of you without having to do 20 degrees of separation or whatever. Like
Right.
it's a
Right.
really good idea that I would keep, it's a road I would keep going down.
Right. I kept hoping, like, if I put it out there, then maybe people will find things that are a better match or something like that. But I wanted to come on here because I felt like if I just wrote it, it might not get my point across.
Yeah,
So if I could
I get that.
explain it and then put it out there and people could look at the list and say, well, these two can be swapped or something like that. I mean, then we would know it doesn't work because if you swap any of them, we know so many of the verses are paired correctly just based on things in the verses. So once you start swapping them, if they're able to be swapped, then that can't really be the way.
So let me take you down another like unexpected, completely random, um, blindsided path because you made a post about it. Where are you? What are your initial thoughts about combining these two poems?
I honestly I only combined them the way I did in the post, was because to me it just poetically flows
It does
that
flow a
way.
lot better.
And it kind of tells a story that makes sense. I mean, you don't know what the story is really. I mean, it tells you the story of them arriving and things like that. And the lines, I feel like they kind of make more sense together in that way. Um, but I haven't really come up with much. I don't know if the lines are telling you an order of the paintings, but I think I've just made that up in my head because we know that he spells gray different ways.
Yeah.
But there he spells it with an E. In the painting, he spells it with an E. So I was like, maybe this line's here. And then if you're matching something to San Francisco, it's at the very end, which would be bookends with New York at the top, the gray line, northern seas, and it's over in the north of the US. Um, and the end has the sweet swarm and the honey, and that's in the story for San Francisco's painting, whatever that imp with the. But that's really as far as I was just looking. I mean, it speaks of like the Houston painting with the genie or whatever in there. So it feels like there are things in there that hint to the paintings in some way, but I don't know if that's just random because everything in the story is kind of interlocked. So he's just putting that because that's the story of what he's trying to tell. So of course those things are also going to be in the paintings and in the writings because that's what's the point of it. So
Do you think maybe we're making a mistake thinking that so let's take what you just did with matching in the litany and the
mm-hmm.
poem, those two things.
Right.
Those are two different things where if you play with them a little bit and if you use a little bit of puzzling skills, you can glean some information from. Do you
Yes.
think we're making a mistake thinking that all of these things that just sort of half work are self-contained, instead of these parts are giving you information, and sort of in the same way that the verse in the painting does to give you city information. Sometimes it's
Right.
over here, sometimes it's over here.
Yes.
You combine it all together and you get facts. Do you think we're
Hmm.
making a mistake compartmentalizing these things instead of taking them as it's just giving you information to put in some columns, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it could be. Um, I feel like for like I was actually kind of worried to step out of my columns of the the chart and the litany and the verse and the painting. Um, just because the San Francisco one solved with the story and didn't solve inside of itself like the rest of it. So I was like, maybe I'm supposed to step outside for some of these other ones, not just in here. I only stayed in there because of the artwork, really. I got the list from there because that page also had the artwork on it, and you don't use that page for anything else. Um, but maybe they're not compartmentalized. It's hard to know because you can get information from so many places. It seems like it comes from
Well, I
all
think
over the
like
place.
and this is a comment that's going to get me in trouble later on down the road. I know it is. But I think about the stuff that we know about the paintings, right?
Hmm.
And the sort of patterns that the paintings or the verses make, and none of them work with all of them. Not none
Right,
of them. Like even the latitude and longitude coordinates, it doesn't work with all of them. Like
right.
Milwaukee's the outlier. So
Hmm.
we dismiss these things, these good ideas, because it doesn't work 12 times the exact same way. You know,
Right,
where it could be like you're getting the same information, you're just getting it a little different, or
right.
you're getting it from a little different place.
I think my question for that would be, how do you know where to get it for each one? How do you know if this one that you count the fingers on the hands and this one you use the numbers in the verse and this one, of course, it could be all kinds of things, but how do you know where to get it from? Like the latitude and longitude, it's in almost all of them. And then there's one
The
outlier,
outlier. Well, then
So
take it a
go
different way,
ahead.
like the time, the month order. You
Hmm.
know, sometimes it's given to you in clocks, sometimes it's given to you in warts, sometimes it's given to you in, what I'm saying. Your
Yeah,
count.
I don't know about that either because to me, the flowers, without knowing the month, some of those flowers are not
Yeah.
recognizable from the painting as what flower they are.
Well,
So I
you
feel like
use.
without the stone and without the clock, I wouldn't necessarily know what some of these flowers were. I know because I know they're the birth flower for that month. Um, so I feel like without the gem or clock for the others, the flower would help me for some, but not all, because
But not all.
I wouldn't recognize which one they were.
But if you were to start making columns where,
Yes.
okay, the clock makes sense over here, but it doesn't make sense over here, but this other thing makes sense over here, and I can fill a column in with that. And I think, to answer your question, like how do you know, it's not a one-to-one thing. It's a combination
Right.
of a lot of things that all
Right.
sort of fit together. And that's where a lot of searchers get tripped up, because they especially like the Montreal and Milwaukee people who want to
Yes.
flip the verses. Like they
Hmm.
don't understand that breaks the web. The web works
Right.
for all of them, and flipping that just
Right.
breaks everything. So
Yes.
I think instead of maybe go back to your matching, and instead of thinking
Hmm.
about how do I make this work for all 12, think about which ones these work for, and why, like what information it gives you and why that would be important in the context of all of the other information that you have. I
Right.
really think this puzzle is a lot of like getting small pieces of information, putting them together, and figuring out how those pieces of information work, rather than like step by step, solve this, then solve this, then solve this.
Yes.
And you know anyway, I don't know, I could be wrong.
I mean, who knows? We're never going to actually know the
Yeah.
right answer. It's not as easy as the it's right here in the painting
Yeah.
things. Everything else is kind of like subjective. Like on my list for Montreal, matching the description of a spider web to a spider web, like someone else may not think that's a match. But that one was kind of process of elimination because nothing matched that. That was the only one that really
Yeah.
could match it. Um, But I agree that to me that one was like a little weak. Some of them are just like some of them I thought were really good. That's why I thought I was on the right track. And then some of them was just like, that's a little bit of a
Well, I mean, like I've always said that the litany list that I've always thought was the best was Chris Woodford's. Chris
yes,
Woodford, that list was amazing, except parts of it were just dumb. You know, like some of it you could tell, and he would admit he like I don't know what to put here, so I just put whatever.
yeah,
You know, but if I think at some point we have to have the sort of the courage to say like this part doesn't work. You know,
yeah,
like we don't
hmm
the information we're getting from all of these we don't get from this one here. You know, we
right,
get it somewhere else.
right.
I don't know.
That's what I'm hoping if I post it, people will say, well, this one doesn't really make as much sense or something like
Yeah.
that. Because I know some of them were like a little like, I don't know if anyone's going to buy that. But
But like, or some people could be like, the information that you're missing here could be gotten from over
yes,
here. You know,
right, right.
I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, like I was trying to figure this out, and I'm sure there's stuff in the rest of the front of the book that may also help with this. And I didn't really focus on that. So I was hoping like somebody that's a little more schooled and knows more of that stuff might say, "Oh, well, at the beginning, this part's here, and that works in this
Yeah.
category." Because I just got mine all from it had to fit the list, it had to fit the litany, and then it goes with the verse in order.
Well, there's
Um,
like four things in the front of the book that are obviously important, but none of them make any sense on their own. Rob
I know,
Carajulio
yeah.
mentioned the map. There's the
hmm
poems. There's the litany. Like none of these things you can tell they're all really important, but none of them.
Right.
I mean, the litany helps, but you know what I mean. They don't give you direct. They give you direct information about some things, but not all. And I don't know. We work
Yeah.
so much of this puzzle as a whole that and then we just stop. It's weird. I don't know. Never
Yeah, I understand. There's plenty of things I question in the front of the book, and then I'm like, oh, this is capitalized, this is spelled wrong, this is. But then you're like, but does it mean anything, or am I wasting 2 months looking at things that are capitalized that shouldn't be, or did they just do this for some reason?
mind. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
I do that. I look at New York a lot, um, and I do that all the time. I'll be like, well, this points me to Brooklyn, so I'm looking in Brooklyn, and then I say, well, this part of the book calls out Manhattan in the front. I'm like, so am I sitting here because something makes me think Brooklyn, and I'm spending 3 months looking over here in Brooklyn when really I'm supposed to be looking at the front of the book where it calls out Manhattan, and I'm supposed to be looking. I always worry that I'm just wasting so much time on
Yeah.
one little call out somewhere, and it's nothing.
You New York guys, y'all never find anything. It's never that one's gonna be in the ground forever.
Yeah, it is difficult. And then when you and Matt posted your San Francisco, I thought maybe because of the bookends, New York is solved in a similar way. It's not a park, it's more like landmarks at the time, like businesses and things
Yeah.
like that. But I was like, I tried so hard to search old things of New York, and that's hard to come by for New York. Everything's different. Um, and I didn't live around here then, so I really have no concept of what New York was like back
Uh,
then. Um, so I'll spend so much time looking at parks because so many are in parks, and then it's just like, but what if it's like San Francisco and it's not a park or a historical thing at all?
yeah.
Uh, so I always get an idea and I'm like, but should I switch it because I feel like I'm wasting my time? And then I go to that one. I'm like, but should I switch it because maybe this is so
I'm gonna continue living in my little world that people can make fun of
yeah.
me. It's fine. Where New York was hidden in the Bantam building. I really really like that idea. No one
Yes,
else.
I connected Bantam at one point because of the start with chicken thing, and they had like the Bantam rooster as their logo or whatever. So I was
Yeah.
like, maybe this is connected in
Well,
some way.
like the Bantam
Um,
building is almost also one half of a city block that's the dead center of Fifth Avenue. Like there's a lot of
yes,
little weird coincidences. So and the Bantam
right,
building was like it was the 21st floor. It was the 21st floor, but it was actually the 22nd because they didn't have a 13th floor. So it was twice as many steps as the hour or some whatever it was. I'm
right,
doing the
yeah.
math wrong. But yeah, there was a lot of weird little coincidences.
I've thought so many things that I thought were right and then ended up, I was like, no, this is stupid. Like
Yeah.
I thought of Him of Hard Word was the Man of Steel because there's a Superman logo in the sleeve of New York. And then I go for it for a while and I'm like, no, I think this is dumb.
Yeah.
I'll do something for so long and I'm like, this is too out there.
I like I don't know. I mean, people like make fun of it or whatever. I feel like like go down the weird rabbit holes because if I had went
Yeah.
back in time 5 years, if I had went back to when like me and JM started this podcast and we did the San Francisco episode, and I was like, nah, dude, I think it's at a hotel, they would have laughed me off of the
Right.
episode,
Yeah.
right? But it's
Yeah.
like, no, it probably is.
Right. I know. I actually got into the hunt because of my friend Tara. She had kind of brought me into it. She had worked on it before, and she always tells me how her ideas are too stretchy and too out there. And I was like, yeah, but it's thinking like that can. So we've been thinking this certain way for so long. I was like, sometimes a stretchy idea is what's gonna get you there.
Sometimes, yeah. I
Sometimes,
think
and sometimes they're way out there.
yeah,
I've had a
I
few of
put in
those.
I put in Discord a lot. Like it's important to have an open mind, but not so open that your
Yeah.
brain falls out.
Right. Yeah.
So
That's
stretchy ideas are good, but it's also good to come at them from the angle of like, I know this
hmm
is stretchy. This is obviously not the truth. Let's just think of things a little differently.
Yes. I think you also need to be able to let go of a spot. When I started, I had a spot I thought was great in Central Park. I know how everyone feels about that. I posted the solve. I know, don't say solve. I posted it. Uh, I mean, there were people that liked it. Most of the time, people don't like Central Park. But I had that same idea and I stuck with it for so long because there were so many matches, which is easy in Central Park because there's so much historical statues, so many. Um, and actually, it was Robert Fox that got me to get out of Central Park. He finally kicked me out of. He actually complimented my theory and said, "This is well thought out," and all this stuff. He says, "If it was in Central Park, if there was one in Central Park, I would consider this." And that kind of made me be like, you know what? He just flat out said it's not in Central Park. So I was
Mm,
like, maybe you should get out of here and look around because I didn't even want to look around. I was one of those people like I have to keep finding it in Central Park. I have to figure something else out. And I think like it's good to stick with something you believe, but you also have to be able to look somewhere else.
I
And
mean, like Central Park's one of the only times I would be like, nah, maybe look in Central Park, because yeah, he said there's nothing in Central Park, but he also said there was nothing in Grant Park. You know?
oh, I didn't know he said that. Oh, well,
Yeah.
he said
Well, he
there's
said there was nothing in Chicago. There was no
yeah,
treasure in
yeah,
Chicago.
right,
Like there's a was that his mom? Was that his secretary that said it? But whatever, it came from his office.
right,
So I don't know, man. I think context is key. Like I don't trust a lot of what Byron said. Like a lot of quotes that come directly from
yeah,
Byron. I don't trust like when not like from articles and stuff, but like from when searchers were approaching him about stuff. I don't trust
right,
a lot of that. But I think also context is key because like Willhouse's stuff about Houston was in a completely different context than,
yes.
a searcher just pressing him for information.
I feel like it seems like if you just said, I'm in this big area like Chicago or Central Park, they would always say, no, there's nothing there. But if
Yeah.
you were in a smaller area like the Chicago guys or like Will House, then he was willing to help because you were actually around the
Yeah.
actual area, like
Well,
close.
yeah. So the Chicago guys first got that there's nothing in Chicago. And then when they sent all their information that showed they were basically right there, the next response was, I don't know why you guys haven't found it yet.
Yeah,
And then
that's
he
kind of
sent him
what
the
kept me
photo.
going on Central Park because I was like, he kind of doesn't help. He kind of says it's not there unless you're there.
Yeah.
And I wasn't there. My Central Park kind of dead ended. I went to Webster from the Webster's dictionary. There's a statue of Webster there, and his sash looks very similar to the sash in the painting. There's like a little piece of fabric or something, and it's almost exact for the folds of the fabric on the sash. So then I looked at the sash in the painting, and it's kind of looks like a mirror image of some kind of animal face or demon face, as some people think. To me, it looked like the rabbit from the Alice in Wonderland statue. So that's where I went after the Hymn of Hard Word. But once I got to that statue, the East Steps, the V, none of that was there. But I still didn't want to leave the area, even though I couldn't. It wouldn't like it was very easy for me to get from the beginning and I don't know if it was called the Grey Walk Arch or whatever. That was my gray giant. You have to walk under the arch in the shadow of it to get to the obelisk where the Webster's Dictionary was buried, with the Alexander Hamilton statue is next to that. And then that would lead you to the Webster statue and the sash. Then you look at the sash and the painting. That seemed to come together very easily for me, like with no research, it was just there in the verse and the painting. But then once I got to that Alice in Wonderland statue through the match and the sash, I couldn't get anywhere.
Yeah.
And I still didn't want to let go of what I was doing, even though it dead ended and I couldn't get anywhere. So I'm kind of grateful that he kind of pushed me out of it a little bit, because I wouldn't have looked anywhere else. I was just sitting there trying so hard to make that one fit after that. So
Yeah. I'm
kind of grateful I moved on from there, but I still sometimes in the back of my mind, I'm like, maybe it was that all along.
Well, like didn't Ben Asen describe Central Park as like every New Yorker's backyard? Like that's where you go.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I do wonder too, like you can't really get much digging done in Central Park now. But if you look at pictures of it in the 80s, it was full of graffiti and things like that. And it just seems like nobody cared back then.
No.
So
nobody cared about any of these parks back then.
Have you noticed
every single park one of these has been dug up in the 80s was just absolutely neglected? It was just a crap park.
Yeah, I do wonder too, like there's been a lot of speculation as to whether he was just in town for something and went to an area near where he was and buried it there. So I do wonder, it seems like I've been to Boston a million times, but never to the Pupilo Park area or whatever, but it seems like such a small little thing. Is it big?
It's right in the middle of the most historic part of Boston. It's like steps away from Paul Revere's house. So,
and I even went by there and I don't remember the park at all.
Yeah. The park is huge.
That was before I was involved in The Secret, though, so I wasn't thinking on that level at all at that time.
That's like when people are like, "Oh, Pupilo Park's so obscure." Like it's right across the street from Cops Hill Terrace.
Yeah, I don't remember the park at all, but I'm planning to go down there with my friend Tara and look around and see just how the solve is and how you can see things from where the end is.
Have you been to any of the solve cities?
No, and my family all lives like 2 hours from Chicago, so when I go home, I'm going to try to convince one of them to go there too.
That one for me. So before I started visiting these cities, it was hard for me to visualize how sort of the puzzles worked, because you're just looking at pictures, you're walking around on Google Earth. It doesn't, you don't have scale, but when you're there, like Chicago was the one that helped the most, because everything is just legitimately right in front of your face. It's boom, 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 cask. There's no question. There's no nothing. So if please consider going.
Yes. Yeah. I've unfortunately been to all of the solved places, but I wasn't involved with The Secret anytime I went to any of them. So I wish I had been. So now I have to make other trips to go see them. But I do really want to go there because I feel like I'm overthinking. I also feel like looking from Google Earth, it looks like this is right next to this. And then I've made several trips to New York with my friend, and these things are not close to each other. They look like they're close on Google Earth, but they're not close, especially in New York.
Yeah.
So,
I don't envy New York people, because like you were saying earlier, every week it's different.
Yeah, it's changed a lot from any of the pictures you look at, and it's also just, it seems like it's so big and it could be anywhere, and it just seems like once you're there looking, it seems very daunting unless you're sure of your spot. And we've gone a few times just to like look around and see what's around certain areas and stuff. And it looks like such a sure thing when you're at home, and then you get there and you're like, this isn't it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's definitely different when you're there.
In the comments, Marge says to call her when you go to Chicago, and she'll meet you. And in fact, when you go to Chicago, just message Rob. Like, he loves going out and walking.
Oh yeah.
People. Yeah, he'll do it. 100%.
I'm trying. I always fly into Chicago. Like I said, my town was like 2 hours from there. So I'm trying to convince my mom next time I come home, be like, you want to go to Grant Park? She'd be like, why? But we'll see. She always comes and picks me up still, like I'm a little kid. Comes and picks me up at the airport. I never rent a car. But just gotta try to convince a family member they want to go to Grant Park
or just fly into Midway and Fly into Midway and take
I
the
usually
rain.
do fly in Midway. I don't like to deal with O'Hare.
Yeah, I don't either.
O'Hare
Uh,
is annoying.
that's my thing. Like whenever I go for like day trips, I just fly into Midway and then I take the train and it drops you off right at Grant Park. All right, well,
Yeah, I should do that. My family would probably be happy I took the train home because it does run right through our town. So
oh,
they'd
nice,
probably
yeah.
be happy they didn't have to drive to Chicago to get me. But yeah.
All right, well, cool. What else do you want to talk about? Because you got time and you don't have to go to work.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I never have to go if I if I don't want to. But um I don't even know. I mean, I'm nowhere in New York right now. I got off of my last tangent there and I haven't found anything worth anything. Kind of bums me out when I'm kind of in between spots because
Yeah.
it's exciting to research a certain spot and figure stuff out. And when you're in between, it was like, this isn't that fun anymore.
That's when we lose people. Like like people get
Yeah,
on these tangents, like these they get so focused on stuff, and then when somebody's like, "Oh, that wasn't there in the '80s," and then they're like, "All
yeah.
right, well, I'm just gonna quit this group and get out of here."
Every time I find an area, every landmark I use, I'm like, I'm looking to see if it's in the 80s. I'm looking to see if it was there. I do not want to go there and find out the stuff I'm using
Yeah,
wasn't there.
that's the hard thing about St. Augustine because like the stuff was around in the '80s, but it wasn't in the same spot. We're a lot like New York where we change daily, you know.
Right.
So like
Yeah.
people who are like using the oh god, what's not the King's, well, there's the King's Road markers and then there's the Spanish Trail markers. People who are using the Spanish Trail markers in St. Augustine, they're like, oh, you start here and then you have to tell, but it was like 3 blocks that way, you know, like
Oh, yeah.
it's just so hard.
I am always worried too because you have the Indies native and there's several options for that. But if it's Hamilton, you can find it anywhere.
Hmm.
I mean, anywhere you go, you can find that. I really hope he didn't use that because you can work that into almost any theory you have. Um, but I've gone to some out there theories in New York, and it's just like there's nothing around here. And
Yeah.
I even convinced myself once. This is kind of embarrassing that that and Long Island is not even technically part of New York City. Well, a little tiny piece of it, but not the main part of the island. That the shape of Long Island looks like her outstretched arm with the way she has her fingers positioned. Um, so I was convinced for a while maybe it would be there, and I'm like, it's not even. Why are you looking here? It's not even part of New York City. But still, I'll get into some rabbit hole and think I should go there, and I'm like, you need to bring it back in a little bit because this is getting a little crazy.
It's that skill of bringing it back in that the rest of the community needs to get.
Yeah, I didn't have that in the beginning. I was stuck in my Central Park for probably 6 months, and I'm like, this isn't going anywhere. You can come back to it if you go somewhere else and it doesn't work. There's no danger of leaving your area because you can come back to it. So you might as well try out other things. Because I had it suggested to me, and I was like, no, I think that I'm on the right track here. But it was after I talked to Fox, and he was nice. I won't say talk to him. He just commented on my post.
Yeah.
But a lot of people were. I don't
I mean,
want to
you
say
could talk
mean,
to
but
him if you want. Like, he's a really nice guy.
yeah, it seems like
Don't
it.
bring up politics, but he's a very nice
I
guy.
don't like to talk politics anyway. But I have quite a few people with, when you have a Central Park theory, some people are not nice about it.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of once he said, this is a really well thought out theory. Once he was nice about it, for some reason that triggered in me, you know what, now I can look somewhere else.
Yeah.
But when people were being mean, you have this need to defend yourself, I think.
Yeah.
And when that's gone, then you're like, you know what, it could be somewhere else. So I feel like if people are not, I mean, I'm not saying be open to everyone's idea. I've had some really dumb ones, but if you're at least nice to people when bringing them down out of the clouds,
Yeah.
I think that helps them. It helped me move away from an area and at least look other places. But when people were being rude, you feel like you need to defend your theory.
Yeah.
So
I had to yell at Matt Sparks about that the other day because he was just like
really,
he wasn't really being mean, but he was being
yeah,
like very abrasive. But it was two
yeah,
people that deserved it, right? Like it was
right,
the people deserved it. But I was like, Matt, what you don't understand is like you're fighting against this person that no one cares about. You know, like the idea, no,
right,
I don't say no one cares about them. The idea, nobody cares about the idea. Nobody's going to take the idea seriously, but what they're going to do is they're going to see you acting that way, and then they're not going to approach you later, or they're not going to respect your opinion. So like
Right.
even like, I don't know. Just like I was like, dude, you're hurting yourself by not just being nice. Like, just rephrase what you're saying.
I mean, I can handle people like being rude and stuff, but I just think it doesn't really help. It's not.
No,
I just
not
don't.
at
I guess
all.
I just don't get what the point is, and it does happen. Like I try not to be rude, but if somebody starts being rude to me, you automatically start being like, "Well, I
Yeah,
don't have to take this."
yeah.
Like,
I mean, like, I've seen. There's been a couple of times where it's like, okay, no, just let's cuss this dude out and get him out. Like, but
yeah, yeah,
most of the time, I totally agree. Like, just, who cares? Just be nice. It's a
right,
children's
yeah.
book.
I know. I
Like, could you
People get
imagine?
worked up.
Could you imagine the kind of conversations that people have about The Secret, about like the Cat in the Hat? Could you imagine
Yeah,
people
right.
like screaming at each other about the Cat in the Hat? It would be nuts. Yeah,
There are no stakes in the Cat in the
yeah,
Hat.
right.
But
But
I
the
don't know.
cat isn't really a calico, and it proves it in Dr. Seuss's autobiography on page 30.
Hey, there are some people that would argue the Cat in the Hat that way. Some people just like to argue. I try to keep the peace, even if I don't agree. I think maybe one time someone was being like particularly like just going in on me about something, and I was just like, you know what? You could be wrong too. I tried not to be
Yeah,
rude, but I'm like, you know what? Maybe what you're saying is also not right. So
yeah.
why can't we just agree to disagree on this?
I get like a lot of people. I grew up in a weird, like, as I had a weird childhood where I really don't care what people think. Now,
Right.
I sort of learned that. Like, I learned to not really give a shit. But I get that some people do. And it's why I
Yeah.
always tell people, like, if somebody's abrasive to you, just block them, because you're not going to get anything out of them in the future. They're not
Yeah.
going to all of a sudden turn around and be positive. And on top of that, they're not going to post something that you're going to find particularly useful either, if they're not coming, sort of
Right.
from the same
Yeah.
position you are. And then when you start doing that, when you start blocking just the people who are always assholes, you have a super positive experience in these groups. Like, 90% of the
True.
people that I've met from these groups are amazing, amazing people. And
Yeah.
I,
I haven't
if I
had
focus,
very many rude people either, so
but it's weird
but
because the rude ones sort of drown out the good ones
yeah, a lot
sometimes.
of the nicer people just won't comment if they don't agree with something.
Yeah,
Um, but the rude people will always comment if they
yeah,
don't agree with something. So
yeah,
I use the mentality for The Secret as I do on my regular Facebook when people in my family post politics I don't agree with. I just do the just keep scrolling, just keep
yeah, yeah.
scrolling.
Newsflash:
So
you can disagree with something on the internet,
yeah,
and you're not
yeah.
gonna die. The
I
world's not gonna
sometimes I
end.
have a certain person that posts political things that I don't agree with a lot, and first I'll be sitting there. I'm like, I could say this, I could say this. I'm like, just keep going, just go past it. You don't need to say anything.
I'm
What
different.
will it? What purpose
I
will it serve?
I love arguing politics, and I'm like polar opposite from most people. So it's
Yeah,
awesome. I love politics and religion. Like, I know you're not supposed to
yeah,
talk about either of them publicly, but if that's all I could do, I would be so happy.
yes. I grew up in a religious family. We weren't like I didn't go to like a religious school like you did. I remember you saying that. Um, but well, one half of my family was not religious, but the other half was like go to church every Sunday,
Mhm.
be involved in the church, things like that. And somehow I ended up more liberal than that side of the
Yeah.
family. So whenever they start talking about stuff, of course I love them, they're my family. I just don't engage because I'm not getting in a fight and I don't agree with anything they say about politics. So
Yeah. Oh well. Like,
I just avoid it.
eh.
Two
Anyway.
people get a little too heated about it. If you're willing to talk about it and not ruin your relationship with someone over it, then I'll talk about it. But
Yeah.
if you're gonna be like, I hate you now because you don't agree, then I'm not gonna engage in that kind of thing.
That reminds me of something, because Rob Robel is the worst when it comes to
Yeah.
politics. Now, and I can say this because, like, I'm gonna expand, but somebody's gonna clip this and send it to Rob, where I'm just like, George said Rob is the worst. Anyway, when it comes to politics in a conversation, me and Rob could not be more different, right? Like,
Right.
we are both very extreme, on very extreme sides of the political spectrum. and we argue like we fight like cats and dogs. We'll call each other fucking morons, like on the phone to each other's face. But then when the politics is over, when that conversation is over, it's like we're having a beer, we're best friends.
Yeah.
I need to get Rob on a podcast to talk about how you switch that shit off. You know, like how
He's
how
a pro
you can
at it.
how you can argue with about anything, not just politics, not about religion, but how you can argue with people, and then at the end of that argument, that's it. You know, whatever we said was contained within that conversation. It has no bearing on this conversation. You know,
Right.
I feel like that's a lesson that the secret people could learn a lot from.
You don't have to not be friends because you don't agree on everything.
Exactly. Could you imagine if everybody agreed on everything? It would be boring.
Yeah. And there are definitely people like that in the secret, not that disagree, but like I've seen people like they're heavily disagreeing in a post and they'll be like, they'll kind of just agree to disagree and move on. They're like, oh, so we don't have the same theory, but we can still be friends. Yeah. So I do see people like that there. Maybe not the majority, but I do see at least some people like that.
I see that quite a lot. There's a lady in the comments, Cindy Hendry, and we don't agree on anything. Sweetest lady in the world. Love her to death.
Oh yeah. Like she gave me ideas when I had my Central Park theory. Also, she was very nice too.
She's super nice to everybody. Like you're an asshole to Cindy, and she's like, yeah, whatever. I'll still help you. Like I love people like that. Even though we disagree on everything when it comes to the secret. But it's just the nicest lady.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm rambling now. Sorry.
Oh well, I mean, we're way off topic anyway. So my thing wasn't very long, and it won't make for a very fun thing if there's nothing else to say, I guess. So, but I don't know. I do wish I could figure out those other two poems, though. I just feel like there's something there. Maybe there's nothing there, but it feels like something is there.
But as long as it's on your mind, as long as it's in the back of your mind, if there's something there, it'll click. You know, that's the way problem solving works. You just think about it, keep it on your mind, and eventually something will click. Like you'll see something on TV and go, holy shit, maybe it's that.
Yeah. I'm just hoping someone will come out with something. I'm ready for a big breakthrough. I want something exciting to happen.
Everybody's been waiting for that for the secret for years. That's never
gonna happen. I keep hoping for some breakthrough in New York, but I'm just at a standstill there. I don't know. And I haven't seen anything different lately. It's a lot of the same type of thing. So hopefully I'm still hoping someone will come out with something great in New York. I guess just because I'm near that one.
Yeah.
Then I can actually go look at stuff. But I don't go in the winter so much. It's too cold. Can't dig anywhere because if the ground's frozen.
It's like an hour, 2 hours, the city?
Yeah, it's not far from where we are. We usually drive there. My friend drives. I don't drive in the city. I'm too nervous.
Dude, road with Nicholas Canuck in the city? That's crazy. I thought people in Florida couldn't drive. No.
Yeah, when I am with someone who drives crazy, because I don't want to drive, I try not to complain. So I just look at my phone or don't look outside. Because I don't want to be one of those, slow down, you're close to that car, this car's coming. So I just like, don't pay any attention to what's happening.
I'm just like, you know where you're going, get us there. It's fine. I'll live, probably.
I've never been someone who likes to drive in the city. I drive my same routes all the time, and anytime we go like in the city somewhere, somebody else drives.
Yeah. I'll just Uber. It's fine.
Yeah, true. But it's so far. I don't want to Uber all the way from here to
that's true.
New York. I mean, it's not actually far, but it's far if you're Ubering. But we took the train last time, so it was the first time we've tried to navigate the subway together. So we made it, but it was
nice,
interesting trying to figure it out.
I still haven't done the subway. I want to, but I haven't done it.
It's not as daunting as it seems, but it seems like it would be very easy to just get on the wrong train. And then you're somewhere you don't know where you are.
Well, it's like Rob told me when I went to Chicago the first time. He's just like, fly into Midway, get on the train, come down to the park. And I was like, get on the train. How do you even get on a train?
Like, how do you do that? I would just go up and be like, tell me what train gets me to Grant Park.
It's like, dude, you'll figure it out. Just don't worry.
I don't like trying to figure things out that could lead me to like a whole other section of the city. And then I'm like, now I don't know how to get back. I don't even know where I am.
Yeah. I figure if I can't figure out the subway, I'm never going to figure out the secret. So it's fine.
Yeah. Well, I think that like some of the things people have found, like I would have never found the latitude and longitude on my own. I would have never found these quotes people have found. So sometimes they'll when I think about stuff like that, I'm like, how are you ever going to solve anything? You would have never found any of this stuff on your own. I know
I
I
don't
wouldn't
know.
have.
Don't count yourself short. You like I look at the latitude and longitude coordinates same way John Palancar did. I think I don't remember if he said it in an interview or if at the meetup where he was like, I can't believe it took so long to figure that out because it's just so obvious. I look at it and I'm like, how did you guys go 20 years or whatever and not figure these numbers
I feel
out?
like I never would have figured it out because I guess I just don't think that way, I guess. I would have just been like, what do these numbers mean? I would have been trying to figure out some stupid part of the theory that went with it, and it's the latitude and longitude. So I guess it's good there are many people since we all think different ways.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what city I would be in if it wasn't already figured out. New York probably because of the Statue of Liberty, but I don't know where I'd be if that wasn't obvious. Who knows? I don't know if I would have. I may have connected the water tower, but just because I lived near Chicago. But some of the others, I don't think I ever would have connected Houston without latitude and longitude. I don't know that area at all. I would have never put that as Houston without that. So
That's difficult.
yeah, but
All right. Well, is there anything else or would you like to end early or it's up to you? It's your show.
oh well, if we're waiting on me to entertain, there won't be any of that. I'm not
Yeah,
an
you've done
entertaining
pretty well
person.
so far. I mean, you were nervous
Well,
coming on. Is it okay? Or like,
it's fine once you get talking,
okay,
but the anticipation of talking not that fun.
yeah,
But once you start talking, but you're good at keeping the conversation going, so it's you always have something to continue talking about. So
I
even though
try.
we're way off of what we started, there's you still have had things to talk about. If we
That's
rely on me for something to talk about, there'll be silence.
it's a good thing about having ADD. I got all kinds of shit going on in my head. We can go in all different directions.
Yes, but I would say for people that are worried about coming on, I'm about as introverted as you can get, and it's not that bad. It's the beginning's a little like I was a little shy to start,
Yeah.
but then it's not so bad.
Well, I think what people don't realize is, and maybe you didn't either. I was saying it. I think before we went on, like the first question that's always asked is, "How do you want me to approach you?" Like, do
Right?
you want
Yes.
me to just be a huge asshole? Because like people, like I said
Mm-hmm.
earlier, people see me on these just being a huge asshole to somebody, and they don't realize
Yes.
they asked for that. You know,
Yeah.
like you
Right.
get that option.
Yes. That's why I said, please refute what I'm saying, but be nice to me.
Yeah, and like you had good ideas, like in all honesty, and
Some of
legitimately good.
them.
Some of them,
Some of them.
some of
I
them
do know
were.
some were a stretch. That's why I was hoping like somebody could find something that's not as much of a stretch or is a better match than what I had found.
Yeah,
Um, and obviously, I would like it to be the right thing, but also if someone is able to debunk it and swap them around and stuff, we know that that would make the solved ones not work anymore. Then I'd rather have it debunked than continue thinking it's the right thing and trying to keep going with it and figuring it out more because I don't want to waste my time either. So
yeah.
so I appreciate it when people, even if it ends up my things are not right, I'd still rather know that than spend more of my time on something that isn't right. So, you know, but I would encourage people to come on here. I work every Sunday night and I like listening to podcasts. So I feel like we need, or listening to the Sunday Fundays. So I feel like we need more of them. So I have something to do at work. Since it's third shift, they let you listen to stuff. Can't watch stuff, but you can listen to it. So more people need to come on. So I have
Yeah,
something
I
to do,
agree. I think
something to keep me entertained at work.
I think we have one next week, and then we're
Yes.
no more. Well, it's like
I mean, I think
I gotta
people don't
wait.
want to
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I think people don't like I had a big worry I'd come on and just look like an idiot, or people would be like, your idea is stupid. But, people are going to do that anyway. And for the most part, people aren't like that. Even if you're not
Yeah,
right, they either don't say anything and they're like, oh, just try to flesh this out a little bit or something. And I think people have that worry. I also have a worry because I just don't like being on camera. I'm someone who doesn't like to take pictures, and so I just didn't want to be on camera really, but
Yeah.
I guess I didn't have to have the camera up.
I
But
my thing is always like for people who worry about coming on and looking like an idiot, I will
yeah,
never I'll never make you look like an idiot. In fact, if you start making yourself look like an idiot, I know how to bring
bring
you
it
back
back.
from that. But unless you are frustrating. That's the only
Yeah.
way when somebody's like, because I've had this in the past where we do Sunday Fundays for a conversation, but it seems like
Hmm.
okay, you just set this up as a conversation because you wanted to do a 2 hour slideshow. Like that's
Right. Yeah.
frustrating to me, and I don't mind. Like I, but anybody who is honest and just wants to come in and talk about their ideas, I'll never
Yeah. I
never
enjoy
disagree.
listening to them, even ones I don't agree with. I still enjoy them. Almost every one, even the ones that are kind of out there. They still get me thinking about other aspects of the puzzle. And even if
Yeah,
it's about Roanoke and I'm working in New York, they'll always say something that then makes me think something about the puzzle I'm working on. And it makes me research the puzzles I don't do as much. So I've
yeah,
learned about the ones I don't do as much just from looking into things people have talked about on
yeah,
there. So I think it helps even if it's not something you agree with. It's still, it always gets me back to thinking about the puzzle when I'm not. So I think it's beneficial.
yeah.
And I
And I
don't
mean,
think,
especially if it's not one that you work on, it's always good to have a broad understanding of what's going on in
yeah,
all of the puzzles. You
right.
know?
But
All
I
right.
think more people should come on. This is my plea for
I
people to
agree.
do Sunday fun days.
So if anybody wants
So
to do a Sunday fun day, just let me know and we'll do it. Just pick a date.
yes,
You know?
don't make me have to keep listening to the same ones over and over
Yeah,
because
they
I
get
do.
boring.
I listen to the same ones. I've listened to the old podcasts, which I think you should get the guys back together. I enjoy
Yeah.
listening to the. You guys all have a
Good
good
luck.
rapport with each other. You know each other, so it's nice to listen to those.
Yeah.
And you guys are all kind of like when you're arguing, you're all kind of like the type that then you can come back and bring it back. I have listened to the one with the stairs and steps argument, and no, everybody stayed friends after that, even though there was a lot of disagreement.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I miss everybody. I mean, they're all still around. They just like
yeah,
nobody wants it. It's not. I think it stopped being fun for a lot of people.
yeah,
So
maybe people can bring the fun back. It doesn't have to be so
that's my
serious. It is a
hope.
puzzle, so
Yeah.
but hopefully we'll get people doing their theories. If people are worried about their theories being too out there, whatever, it's still nice to debate them, even if you're like, no, everything is doesn't make any sense at all. You've still put an idea in somebody's head about something that could lead somewhere. So, and I think it helps to have someone be like, okay, this is an okay idea, but you're putting a lot in here that doesn't make sense. I
Yeah.
think some people need that. I don't think people want that very much,
I
but
agree.
I think it's needed. And like I said, for me, it actually did help me when I got out there that for people to say that as long as they're nice about it, I don't care if they say, you know what, this doesn't make sense. I'd rather know that and kind of revamp it, even though sometimes you want to cling to your theory a little bit. But yes, hopefully more Sunday fun days we can get going,
That
get
would
us
be nice.
inspired to get people inspired to be working on the puzzle again and stuff, people that take a break or whatever. So, but yeah, if you're ready to end, I don't really have
Okay.
much more to say.
I have to plug two things. I'm told.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
we're all getting together. I say we are. We're all like. There's like 10 of us getting together in New Orleans on February 15th. I think. Yeah, February 15th for some parade. Rachel's been invited to be in a parade. So we're all going to get together.
Okay.
We're going to go to the parade and hang out. If you're around New Orleans and there's like all of the prominent New Orleans searchers are going to be there. So just come hang out. I
Oh,
think we're meeting at St. Louis Cathedral at like noon. There's an event page. And then there's a cruise. There's a forum. There's also an event page if you want to go on the cruise. Come on the cruise. It's going to be fun. It was something else I was supposed to plug, but I forget what it is.
I'm always dying to go on the cruise. I haven't bit the
You should
bullet
go.
yet, but
It's a lot of
I
fun.
always want to.
It's a lot of fun. And like most, like some people think like I don't want to go on a ship for 6 days and just talk about the secret nonstop. It's not that. Like it's a
Yeah.
lot of fun. So I
Yeah.
would recommend it.
Yeah, it
But,
sounds fun. I mean, you can talk about the secret if that's what you want to do,
yeah,
and if you just
there's
want to hang out
always
with people that you
yeah,
kind of know.
there's always somebody that'll talk to you about it. And then Brian's gonna be there, Rob's gonna be there. I don't know who else is coming. I think we got like 34 people that are booked already, which is crazy to me.
It always sounds like a good time to me.
Yeah.
I always think about it. I'm just like, you should go on the cruise, and I'm just like, oh, I don't know. That's a lot of people.
No, do it. Like it's gonna because there's what I think what you don't understand is there was this concern, especially with women for the first cruise,
Mhm.
like solo travelers, especially
Right.
that several of them were introverted. They were getting rooms by themselves, and they were like, I don't know if I'm gonna hang out with people, or I don't know if I'm gonna like it. And they
Yes.
all like had the time of their lives because it was like the introverted
Right.
girls just got together, and they were that was the group. It was cool. Um, but yeah, if you want to go. It's I think the prices came down too.
But I have luckily have a secret partner that would go with me, and we're opposite. I'm very introverted and she's extroverted, so it helps bring me out a little bit.
Nice.
So,
All right.
but yeah. All
Well,
right.
cool. I guess that's it. Thank you for coming on.
Yes. Thank you for listening to my somewhat okay, somewhat dumb theory.
I'm gonna stop the stream now, but don't
Sure.
close your thing yet.
Okay.
See you later, everybody.